for you. We have beautiful panel speakers here, Sam, Shelly, Elise, and Hannah. My first question is to Shelly. Shelly, what keeps you up at night when it comes to AI and your work?
Well, it's evolved. So in the beginning, I'd say a couple years ago, what kept me up at night was um, unauthorized use of AI. A lot of times, we'd have eager R&D departments, IT departments that wanted to use Copilot and other types of tools to check their code. Sometimes that would threaten our IP ownership, and then sometimes it would just be various types of code um, that we're not quite ready for release, and it would just expose us um, to all kinds of risks, depending on the platform that was used and the types of tools and the types of code that that might expose our product. To this
Hmm.
day, I would say that what keeps me up at night might be how do we build better human review throughout the AI tools that we have.
Hmm. And what exactly are you doing to build the human review?
There's different debates right now. So there's different stages at which we can review prompts, but in order to force people to do it, um, there's ways of perhaps launching prompt boxes to have a human check a box and say that I did review this, or someone else reviewed it as a secondary review. Um, but it's hard to make it just further than a rubber stamp function, right? We want to make sure that this is something that a human actually reviewed and made some changes if needed, or corrections. So it's hard to enforce a qualitative review at this time, and that's um, something I'm curious to hear about from my peers.
Hmm. And when the human is reviewing, you mentioned the human is reviewing the prompts, and the AI still hallucinates. Or what are you doing about the hallucinations and the incorrect information that you get from the AI?
Well, we hopefully through human review can check sources and discover if there are hallucinated sources or analyses there. The human
Hmm.
doing this kind of a check on the answer that AI provides is much like us checking the work of a young intern, right? We want to make sure that they did check the right types of sources, that not all sources are the same value, right? There's some more credible sources, um, more vetted studies. And so it takes a human to really weigh all of that.
Hmm. Hmm. So, Hannah, I saw a post from you on LinkedIn that you were hiring people, and I also saw a lot of posts from, let's say, Sundar Pichai from the Google, the CEO. He said they've stopped hiring L3 and L4 engineers. So, L3, L4 engineers are the base load engineers, the fresh engineers, because the AI can do a better job than a fresh engineer. They only want engineers like L7, L8 level who can review the code being built by the AI. In the legal field, a lot of contracts and a lot of work is done by AI. How is it going to impact the profession, the law, the fresh graduates coming out of law? What do you advise them?
So I think that fresh graduates, as opposed to engineers, maybe have a little bit of an advantage in the sense that lawyers tend to be a little bit slower to adopt technology than perhaps the rest of the world. But even with that, I think that there's the new graduates are going to be people coming out of law school learning how to use AI in law school, unlike us. They're going to be the first round reviewers of the AI output, and that is going to be an invaluable resource to the people like us who didn't necessarily grow up or start practicing law using AI. I think that with every tech that comes out, there's been a fear of being replaced or unneeded, and it's just a fear. I personally have complete faith in attorneys' resilience, especially those who have just survived law school. And I truly believe that if we embrace AI, all lawyers have the opportunity to be excellent advocates, including newly graduated lawyers.
So do you believe that no lawyers, so AI will not replace lawyers, and we're all going to keep our jobs? Or
I think that AI will replace some aspects of law, but just like the same types of law haven't existed over the years, new types of law will come up. The fact that we're speaking on this panel about AI, we are all now talking about AI. There will be AI lawyers out there. I think, and people are hiring me to review their AI uses. That's a new job. So it's all an ebb and flow, and I think the market will shift and will definitely be some adjustment period. But like I said, I think lawyers are resilient and our skills are highly, I'd say highly flexible, and we will adjust to whatever the new need is.
Mhm.
I agree with you, Hannah. I think the nature of associate, first level, a first year work will change. AI is going to be built into the new processes, but you don't get to be a senior attorney or a senior technical person without first being a first year. First years aren't going away. Maybe the roles will compress. They'll change, but they're going to be resilient. I agree.
Mhm.
I think so too. It
So,
doesn't. I don't think it collapses roles. It just shifts them, like any technological advancement really has done. As far back as the Industrial Revolution, I mean, we're still achieving the same objectives. We're just doing it in different ways and hopefully better ways. So I think the nature of the work shifts, but not the workers themselves. Except for those who can't embrace the change, maybe they might get left behind. But industries see this all the time, from energy to tech to law. When the landscape shifts and you shift with it, it's only for the better.
Alice, this question is for you. 5 years back, well, when we were talking about connected homes and the AI controlling your home, you can control your phone. From your phone, you can control your home's temperature and whatnot. And now AI can barge into that. They said the first AI death will happen in 2025, which means the AI can control your home automatically. It will also be hacked. How, as a cybersecurity professional, what's keeping you up at night?
I wouldn't say AI deaths are yet in my nightmares. I think there's a lot more pressing causes of death that keep me up at night at present. But again, just, my view on AI is it's no different than any advancement we've ever seen in the world. You've got to embrace it thoughtfully, strategically, and put guardrails around it. And I don't think AI is different from any other major leaps that we've made as a society. And so if you're assessing the risk and deciding I'm going to let AI run my life, then you have accepted the risk that it could cause great harm in lots of different ways. If you don't put any barriers to entry, any types of controls, any kind of human in the loop, human intervention required to keep you safe, either in a business sense or a physical sense one day down the line. So if you're assessing the risk to get in an AI powered car, you'd maybe want to see what are the safety mechanisms, because something can and probably will go wrong eventually. What kind of layers of controls are in place to keep me as safe as possible when that does happen? So I don't think AI is unique in that sense, but it can't be diving in blindly. It's really a risk assessment conversation, to be honest.
So what guardrails, what kind of mechanism are you putting to make sure that your risks are averse or at least minimized?
Well, so in an enterprise, so to speak, I don't use AI a lot in my personal life. I don't have maybe like an AI powered refrigerator or anything like that yet. Maybe one day, but I don't think those are as commonplace right now. I don't have a car that's driven by AI either. But in the work that we do, we're not interested in getting left behind, and the real front runners in business and market evolution are going to be those that embrace AI, and we do recognize that in our day-to-day work too. And so it's just assessing what data is at play here. What does our risk appetite sit with? What do we allow for autonomous decision making? Where are we comfortable with letting AI make decisions and maybe even act independently, versus where are we not comfortable? Where would we want a human to review, a human to approve, or a human to assess the output before anything happens? So again, as much as anything happens in cybersecurity, it all starts with a risk assessment and understanding what are the threats, what does our appetite dictate that we're comfortable accepting from a risk standpoint, versus where do we need to add and layer some controls to reduce that risk down to an acceptable level.
I think it would have to be
Sam,
pretty risk to just let the AI go unchecked. You want a human involved.
Yes.
And
Yes.
completely walling yourself off to any AI too is a business risk that you're taking as well. And that needs to be assessed too. It might feel like the safer answer up front. It can't hurt us if we don't let it in, but it is going to hurt your business if the world around you and all of your competitors are embracing the advantages that it brings to their market share.
Sam, when 3 years back ChatGPT came, did you imagine that it will go this far?
I think humans are pretty bad at predicting the future, no matter the situation. Right? When the internet came out, you had some naysayers who didn't think it would take off, and well, here we are now. It's tough to say where are we going to go from here. Certainly, there's great things on the horizon, but I don't think we get there unless everyone involved in shaping the future does their part to make sure we get there safely. So, you've got your engineers, developers, and product managers. They need to make sure it's functional, it works well, it's meeting the needs of the people that use it, hallucinations are kept down. And you've got your risk professionals who play a role in making sure the appropriate safeguards are in place. Without the safeguards, there's going to be too much risk, too much devastation potentially, and that lowers the value of it. So everyone, when the internet came out, everyone that was in the industry at the time, in tech, played a role in shaping the internet we have today. That's what we're doing now. All of us here on this call, all of our viewers who work in tech and in AI, we all have a role to play in shaping the future.
And what do you think is most overlooked?
Most overlooked?
Let's say in AI governance or otherwise.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think what's most overlooked is kind of circling back to what we've said before. The question isn't how do we reduce the number of employees needed. The question is how do we prepare our interns, our new associates, our new employees for this future? How do we, what does a senior attorney look like in the future that has been trained on how to use AI properly, how to spot hallucinations and account for them? I think that's what's being most overlooked.
And so coming back to you, Shelly, the prediction is that just the US will lose about 10 million jobs in the next 3 years. And jobs in all fields. Let's say you might have seen that Tesla, they sent the first car from the Tesla showroom to the buyer's home, completely driverless, nobody in the car, 50 miles away. The car was delivered automatically on its own using an AI that was making the car run without any accident whatsoever. the same technology will be used, let's say, in driverless cars and driverless trucks, and then this like making so many drivers redundant. What's going to happen to these drivers? And similarly, a lot of engineers and lawyers, some of them will also lose their jobs. I mean, a lot of them also lose their jobs. They will. We don't need so many people anymore. Then there will be millions of people on the road without a job. Does that scare you?
I think this question has been circulating for over a decade. I've been working on litigation for driverless cars and for driverless trucks, doing supply chain, optimizing the supply chain even a decade ago. And, the issues still continue that we see accidents still, even though we've seen something manufactured end to end without a human lifting a finger. There's something to be said for that progress, but we need backup systems, right? And we talked about that just a little bit earlier, but we need to build in backup systems. We need to know what to do when these machines fail. They're still fallible. And when a lot of these accidents have happened, there's a whole problem of, well, whose liability was it, right? If it was driverless, was it the manufacturer's problem? Was it, whoever contracted this vehicle? Who signed the waiver? There's still some finger pointing to be done, and there's still something to be said about jobs behind what seems to be a humanless job, right? And humans cannot lose these skills. We still need to be that backup system. We need to know how to repair when the machines are going, you know, off the charts. And so the jobs change. It's not just that the jobs go away, but the jobs change. Some of the menial tasks go away. Some of the things that took us, 5 times longer go away, and that's for the better. But we need to do the job still.
Mhm. 2 days back, my friend was driving and she fell asleep on the car, and she's in the hospital right now. A very unfortunate incident. I was like, could an AI saved her if she was not driving it? Because the AI will not fall asleep on the wheel. So there are accidents happening with drivers as well, and perhaps far more than without drivers. And when you were involved in the litigation of driverless cars, could you get some data on whether there are like more accidents with drivers or more accidents without drivers? Because people are in accidents no matter what.
I don't know that
And
the stats are there yet because we,
okay.
by law, have not allowed fully autonomous vehicles in a lot of states. So there's not good data
Mm,
on that. There's not to say that machines are better than humans 100%. We can't say that it's better one way or the other, but it's best to have both. We're in a fallible world, and the machines are fallible and the humans are fallible. No one's going to be free from fault, right? But to
mhm,
have an extra fail-safe is what we want. We want a safer world.
mhm. Thank you so much, Shelly. This is very helpful. Hannah, with the Trump administration coming in, what do you think is going to happen in the AI? We're gonna have more relaxed law on AI, or it's going to be more stringent?
I think with any administration, there is this in new technology, and especially with this one, you see this push and pull between this push for innovation and this pull for regulation of that innovation. And you saw that with the legislation debates that just happened recently. And you saw that there was going to be a 10-year ban on all AI legislation. And while I think that the administration is pushing for more of the innovation and less of the regulation, this particular one, in the long run, I don't know that it will. I don't know that it will stunt or grow. And I think that AI is going to keep growing as it would regardless, because it's such a powerful technology and such an incredible change in the way we do business in our everyday lives. And I think that it'll be interesting to see which one wins. And I think it's too early to say what regulations are necessary, and that's what the lawmakers are grappling with. It's hard to say exactly where the line is for where we say, okay, here's where innovation stops and regulation needs to come in. You see that even with just consents. There's not a consensus on where you need to give consent for AI. Is it at the consumer level? Is it at the user level? Is it at does the business need to put it into their privacy policy, their terms and conditions? And even that thing is just, it gets moved around in every single state. And where that is necessary is something that's going to keep coming up. And that's just one example of the many different debates that are happening with AI. And and I think as we go forward and the future becomes more clear, the technology becomes more refined, we're going to, where we need to put those strongholds and where that legislation needs to put guardrails in, it's going to become more, it's going to become more clear. So I think right now, we don't know. It will become more clear the more mature AI gets.
Mm-hmm. Any other speaker wants to have a take on that?
I liked your point about, maybe regulation doesn't slow down innovation all that much. This is something I think we've seen in, coming out of California with like the 𝗘𝗎𝗄. 𝗘𝗎𝗄 was transformative in the United States, even though it's a California law, right? We know a lot of companies do business with California and are located in California, but Silicon Valley is still a tech hub despite the regulation. And even if the US does not pass AI regulation or limit regulation at the federal level, Europe is doing it, and global companies have to accommodate for that. So does it slow down innovation? I mean, it's probably a stretch to say it doesn't slow it down at all, but I think we're going to get there either way.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Alice, at least in your heart, what's the worst case scenario you imagine about AI?
I'll be honest, I don't spend a lot of my time thinking about the worst case scenarios. Those will come up in due time. So I'll just wait for them to find me.
Leave that to the attorneys.
That's what I pay you guys for. But again, I don't want to be a broken record, but any advancement in the world, not just the tech space that we've ever seen, has come with doom and gloom and fear. What is the other side of that coin? With every reward, there is risk. And so it's hard to have one master risk that rules supreme when they vary so much by industry, by use case. Are we talking AI in our personal lives? I think the biggest risk there is probably physical bodily harm, up to and including death, if we're talking about things like autonomous vehicles and maybe even aviation one day. If we're talking business, it's probably data loss, data leak, data breach of any capacity, IP loss, trade secret loss, or exposure are probably what just initially comes to mind. So but that's nothing new. Those have been risks to businesses since the dawn of time. And so it's a different take on that risk. And so you have to arm yourself and guard yourself in accordance.
Mm-hmm. Shelly, my next question is to you. On your wish list, what do you wish AI can tackle for you in the future?
Oh, I'm all about outsourcing my chores. So meal planning, if I could have a smart refrigerator that tells me what's in the fridge and what's going to be a good recipe for it. That's not my strong suit. So if we could just choose, things that are not our strengths, I think would be vastly helpful. And that's something that the more types of AI services we have, people can choose a la carte, right? So for example, at law firms right now, billing and figuring out how much time you spent working on particular projects has always been highly mundane administrative work that you can't actually charge for. And so that's something that's been prime for lawyers to outsource and to say, hey, track my time. I'm going to click the timer. I'm going to start a task and you track my time for me. And it's been just, vastly more efficient to do the actual substantive work. So things like
Mm-hmm.
that, if you can just have more and more AI tools to do the rudimentary stuff, and you can choose what is perhaps less optimal for your business, your revenue generation, then we can all have um, a more efficient, productive day. And it looks different from different types of companies, right? Because, for example, for a law firm, it might make sense to outsource or machine source the timekeeping and invoicing. But for an accounting company where it gets a lot more complex, you don't want to do that. So different types of companies might want to outsource or machine source different things. On my wish list is
Mm-hmm.
the chores.
It's funny. So
Okay.
much of the
What?
AI offerings out there are focused on creation.
Yeah.
There's value in that, but I think a little too much emphasis is on creation. Like, we enjoy creating as humans. The joy is in the journey, figuring out like what you want to put into your backyard and how you want it to be designed. There's a lot of joy in creating that, and by outsourcing that to AI, we lose that, and I think we lose authenticity as well. And I think there's going to be a market for authenticity.
I agree with you, Sam. I consider that actually one of the irreplaceable human qualities, actually. Creativity, the values of brainstorming, getting people in a room together and you know, just dumping all of our ideas and figuring out what's good or not. That's actually a very human process. And giving it to a machine to spit out a list of, 500 different pitches or different marketing slogans, perhaps that's been useful to someone, but the judgment part, someone reading all those 500 is done by one person. That's not right, because then it's very, very slanted to that one person. You do need the room of people to debate what's a good idea, what attracts people, what is the nugget here.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Hannah, have you ever felt that you have been overruled or your voice has been overruled by an algorithm?
I'm sorry, I think you cut out for just a second. Could you repeat the question?
Yes, I'm saying, have you ever felt that you have been overruled by an algorithm or your voice has been overruled by an algorithm? It's like, no, man.
If I've ever been overruled by an algorithm?
Yeah. So let's say you
Um,
believe something else, but the algorithm is saying something else, and you're like completely against it.
um, do you mean in a legal context, like if
Yeah, legal, personal, professional.
I don't think I personally have, but I do think I've heard of it happening, for example, in the recruiting sphere, where an algorithm can suggest candidates, and sometimes a person would say, "Hey, actually, I like or dislike this candidate for some reason that the algorithm didn't understand or know." And that is, I think, another example of what Shelley is talking about, the invaluable human element of recruiting. And I think that one important part of AI is and will always be that human intervention at the end, or the human check, especially, and I know we talk about this in AI laws, the whether when it's going to impact someone's life, when it's one of those high risk AI decisions, it's always going to need to have that human intervention, or the human check at the end of it. And there's some low risk decisions, algorithms, like you say, that that it might be less impactful if you are overruled by an algorithm, but it's there will always, in my opinion, be a human check necessary, especially for those high risk decisions.
Mm-hmm. You also mentioned a few minutes back, you're also helping companies how to evaluate let's say an AI vendor, or evaluate the different use cases of an AI. What's your view on that? How would you evaluate an AI vendor?
So it depends on what the goal of the vendor is. So first I talk to the person who's trying to acquire it and say, okay, what's the goal? What are we trying to accomplish here? And then from there, do a risk analysis. So sometimes that means meeting with the vendor and saying, hey, what's the overview here? How does this work practically? So I can get a good broad sense. But when you're getting into the like the nitty gritty of it, I'm going to be looking for, is it training on our data? Is it, what are its security specifications? Is it our own instance, or is it a shared environment? What are its certifications? Who owns the rights to the data? The questions we ask it, the support we get, the output of the AI, do we own that or do they own it? Do they store it or just process it? Who has access? What are the consents like I mentioned earlier? And finding out generally how they monitor and test their AI for hallucinations and the like. An ongoing review of their AI and support of their AI is going to be necessary if we're going to be using this product. So I'd say those are generally the things that I look for, but every situation is different, and I'll look into it more or less depending on what kind of data is involved and what the risks are.
Alice, how many people do you have in the company?
We have about 600.
How are you ensuring that people are using AI? I mean, more and more teams are adopting more and more AI. What programs are running for that?
Yeah, I mean, we have an enterprise-wide AI adoption plan for sure, and it's ensuring that teams are equipped with the right tool for their use cases, for the business objectives that their team and department sets out to achieve. It's ensuring that we review requests for new use cases and new tooling with an open mind. Security, and I'm sure legal teams also agree. You can sometimes get the reputation for, the team of no, the team of blockers. They never let you do anything, and so we always just want to, as often as possible, take the opposite approach. I mean, I want to find a path to my yes. Maybe it's a yes, but you can do it under these guardrails and restrictions, and just letting everyone know that we are fully embracing AI, but within policy, within regulatory constraints, depending on where you're operating. And as with any piece of technology, AI is not special. It must be approved, again. And so again, that's what I mean when I say we embrace AI like we embrace all tech in our org. It's not this standalone product. It goes through every existing process, procedure, policy that we have, third-party risk review, legal review, IT use case validation, business justification. It's not unique or special in that regard. It has to follow all of those parameters, all of those workflows, and then get approved to be used.
So is it bottom approach or top-down approach?
Well, it starts with business justification. If there's a cost associated, obviously you've got to get financial approval. It's got to be within budget. IT needs to review it, make sure we're not onboarding duplicative tools. Maybe there's already something in our approved tech stack that can achieve what you're setting out to do, or good enough where we don't need to introduce another tool, another risk, another vendor, another contract to review, another vendor to monitor. Security review, making sure it checks all the security boxes, data protection boxes, compliance boxes. And I think, those are most of the big players for sure, for when it comes to requesting a new third party or supplier.
Mm-hmm.
That all sounds like a lot to go through, but I think one thing that all of us would agree on is we want our business partners to be successful. We're trying to set them up for success by spotting the issues that are going to cause their initiative to fail. If it starts leaking confidential information, that's going to get shut down real fast, and we're going to have a lot of fallout from that. So we want AI to succeed, and we're asking the questions that will hopefully get those proposing the use case to think, okay, well, maybe it could fail if it goes down this route.
Mm-hmm. At least one more question to you. there's a lot of AI tools and whatnot we use in our organization. Are you also building AI agents yourself?
As a personal individual, I am not building agents, but our organization is definitely embarking on that journey, whether it's internal staff with that skill set to support that, or partnering with an external consultant to help really launch that program for sure. Agentic AI is something that we really, really see the power and value in. And again, it's not to eliminate roles, but just to allow us all to do the parts of our jobs that we really love and the reasons why we got into the fields that we're in. None of that is for the administrative paperwork that we all have to do every day, or the manual tasks of moving things, from one bucket to another. That's not what brings us joy. That's not what we get up excited to do, but it's all necessary parts of our jobs. And that's really where we're seeing the power of these agentic AI agents and genies coming to life. And we're early on the journey, but we're going full steam ahead at seeing what they can do for our organization.
Is there anyone else on the panel who is building agentic flows and agents themselves in the organizations?
Our organization has agentic flows, and the flow, and we're also working on other ones, potentially moving them for internal ticketing as far as and external ticketing. If you go to _𝗓𝗏's website, you can talk to an agent, and if you I think the guardrails that we and every other organization has to set around those, or the questions we need to ask are, is it going to be, where is it going to be trained on? Is it going to be trained on just your internal policies? Is it able to come up with answers beyond those policies? And if so, what does that look like? But I think that the idea of agentic AI is really exciting, especially because the idea that it can reduce some of the more repetitive questions. It can make your legal team, your customer experience teams, all of these teams have less of a workload, at least be able to search questions, and then and also give your customers or your end users a better experience, because they can get their answers faster than they would with a human. So yeah, I think that the uses for that type of technology are really exciting, and I think are pretty broad.
So you work in healthcare, Hannah, and what concerns you in AI and healthcare? How far AI can go in healthcare, right or wrong?
I think that what concerns me with AI in healthcare is people relying on AI instead of providers, such as people using AI therapists instead of human therapists. And there's a lot of regulations coming out about that, obviously. But I think the pros of AI in healthcare are also really important, and that I think people can get much better care if their provider can leverage AI in a safe way and be able to think of things and accumulate data, pull from other data in a way that a human brain can't, and bring that to the patient on an individual basis. I think that's really exciting opportunity, but the risks are there too. I think I worry that necessarily the public might not realize that the risks or dangers in using AI instead of a provider.
I'm curious, Hannah, have you seen, everyone self-diagnoses, right? Everyone likes to self-diagnose their medical issues. It's cheaper and easier than going to an actual doctor. Have you seen self-diagnoses improve with AI?
I don't have that kind of, I'd say, face-to-face experience with patients to be able to really tell you that. I think the providers might be able to better tell you that one. But I think one good way that it could help is if people self-diagnose and it causes them to go see a provider and say, hey, I think I have X. I think that's actually a positive, because it means, especially in the US, where people are hesitant to see providers, and some of the biggest healthcare risks is not seeing providers because of a lot of reasons about our healthcare system right now. If it actually makes them get over that hump and pushes them to see a provider, I think that's actually a benefit, even if they're wrong.
So let's tell our viewers, Hannah, you mentioned about AI therapist versus a human therapist. If you can tell a little bit more about what is an AI therapist and how does it work to our viewers.
Sure. An AI therapist would be similar to the agentic AI or chat GPT, where you would talk to a AI agent or an AI bot, and then ask them your questions about therapy and then get answers. And the AI bot would be compiling data off of the internet and everything that else it's scraping and trying to make it relevant to you. And that obviously has its limitations because it's not actually trained like a licensed trained professional. It is an information gatherer, and it's trying to make connections and formulas as opposed to listening, hearing, and evaluating in a medical way. And so the difference, so you asked how it works. That's how it works. And in my opinion, it could be really helpful in a initial assessment question. Do I need to see a therapist? I'm kind of concerned about this. What's going on here? Do I need to see a psychiatrist? What kind of provider do I need to see? Do I need to see a provider at all? Those kinds of questions as initial intake or initial sort of exploratory questions, I think it could be really helpful in getting you information about what you're experiencing. But as for actual diagnosis or consistent treatment, you're going to need to actually go to to a licensed provider, a human.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And why should somebody, just because to save cost and time, somebody should go to an AI therapist, or are AI therapists evolving? Are they becoming better?
I think AI therapists, like every area of AI, are becoming better. It's people, mimicking humans is becoming better in that sense. The idea that they are becoming better at therapy, I think, is wrong. They are becoming better at giving more relevant answers, but not at diagnosing or treating somebody.
I almost wonder, Heather, if it's a misnomer to call them an AI therapist. They're not a therapist. They can point you to resources if it sounds like you could benefit from an actual therapist. Yes or no, these kinds of thoughts, behaviors, actions could be concerning. I do recommend you connect with someone. They're kind of more of, again, an efficiency enhancer of, yes, I confirm what you're feeling. You should talk to someone rather than, having to weigh that decision maybe on your own. But then again, I guess the risk is, what if they tell you that you shouldn't talk to someone and maybe you really need that help in some way too. So, I don't know if the industry, I don't know if in any regard we should equate AI to human beings ethically or morally, by attaching therapists. That's an individual who can think, reason, assess the humanity of you and those in your life as well too, which an AI bot cannot.
I agree.
Yeah,
And
I
I
agree.
think
That's a caregiver, right? And the AI is not giving you care. More than anything, it's somebody who's sort of reading your diary, right? It's reading your thoughts, and maybe they might tell you, "Hey, you should go seek a therapist now." But other than that, there's no extension of care.
I
And
think that
one of the innate problems with AI is it doesn't do well at telling you when it doesn't know. It doesn't do well at showing restraint. It's going to tell you what you think you want to hear, and the algorithm says you want to hear, rather than what you need to hear. Issues.
Yeah, and I think all of us have expertise in different things, and I'm not a therapist for sure, or and so I think that the best answer for why you shouldn't trust an AI bot instead of a therapist will come from an actual therapist. I will say, as someone like an a professional who looks into how AI works, I can tell you from my perspective that it's not a good idea to be treating someone based on how AI actually works. But also, I'm certain that a therapist or a provider in the mental health field would have a much more verbose reason and, as to why AI bots would not be appropriate.
So Sam mentioned a very beautiful point here, a very important point here. Sam, the question is to you. You mentioned that AI will tell you what you want to hear and not what you need to hear. How do you handle that?
I'll come back to the internet. The internet came out, anyone could post anything. We still have that problem today. Trying to discern between what's real and what's made up is an ever-present problem. There is a need for internet literacy. People need to be able to tell, okay, this is a good source, this isn't a good source. We have the same problem with AI. We all need to develop a skill set for detecting hallucinations and verifying sources. And being able to, the issue with AI is that it will, with full confidence, providing alleged sources, it will tell you something wrong. And it doesn't falter at all in the answer, right? That's what makes it so believable.
But the question is this, Sam. So if you look at, let's say, benefits of coffee, there were 20 sources. If you look at the ill effects of coffee, there were 20 sources. AI can pull all 20 sources for everything that you want, like benefits of green tea and then ill effects of a green tea. There are sources for everything. How do you decide?
That's a really great point, Amit. And I think the underlying skill set is the basic internet literacy. If you have that internet literacy and you know how to spot a bad source versus a good source, what's reliable versus unreliable, and maybe the incentives behind posting something that may not be true, then you can build on that skill set with your new skill set in detecting hallucinations, and they complement each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, AI is not the easy button for outsourcing critical thinking. That's been required, again, since the dawn of time. But as we've become a more interconnected world, it's just been easier to reach the wrong information more quickly and in greater volume. I don't think AI changes what Sam was saying, are the diligence that befalls all of us to make sure that we're assessing what's coming across our eyes, our desks, through a critical lens, understanding who is the source? Are they motivated to have this opinion in some way? And then you making your own decision. AI is not outsourcing the decision making. It's hopefully just giving you information that you can review and then make your own decision yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I could tell it I have peanut butter and zucchini and tomatoes and ham in my refrigerator, build me a recipe, and it might build one, but I might not want to eat it. It might not be very good, and so I don't have to make it just because it spit something out and it felt that it was a wonderful recipe. I get to decide that,
You don't want to try a peanut butter ham zucchini sandwich?
I'm a very adventurous eater, so I probably would. But it gives you the information. You get to decide what you do with that information, not the other way around.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So Shelly, at work, all of us want that. Okay, I'm doing this work so wonderfully, so nicely. I wish I had one more Amit in the organization who would do that. Similarly, you will say like, I'm doing this work so diligently. What if I had one more Shelly in my team? Are you comfortable cloning yourself using an AI?
I haven't really thought about that before. Sometimes I think about, multitasking, or, not missing a meeting and sending a note taker. That would be useful. I don't know about cloning myself and doing a lot more. I might if I had a higher salary to justify that. What's the point, right? I wouldn't want to just clone myself for the sake of, I don't know, doing more work. I think the rest and um, restoring your best thinking is still important. Having time to synthesize. Um, work is just work. It's going to be there 365 days a week, not a week, a year.
Yeah, I think
Yes.
the greatest value that people like those on this call bring to an organization, that everyone does, are their experiences. It's not this textbook of knowledge that they've committed to memory. While that is very important and contributes to their subject matter expertise, it's the lived experiences that they've had in the workplace, the good and the bad, and the payoff that they've seen from making a right or a wrong decision. And that's something that's much harder to clone or mimic through an agent or a bot. We tried this in this organization, and here were some of the things that turned out great, and here's some of the mistakes that we couldn't anticipate. I don't have that written down in a knowledge base somewhere. I have that as my lived experience that I can remember and pull on when I'm posed with a different or similar question at my next organization. And those are the things that you're just not going to get from an agent.
Well, let's assume for the sake of the argument that you could clone the entirety of your knowledge base. I still wouldn't do it, because AI pulls from the existing knowledge base to recreate the solution. When you come up with when you're facing a novel problem, the AI can't solve that. That's where judgment is needed. AI can't replace judgment.
Yeah, it's not dynamic.
Yeah.
So my next question is to Hannah. Hannah, do you think people are thinking less now? That outsource thinking to AI, which is making them more and more less intelligent. They're not thinking anymore. They just ask a prompt, and the prompt gives you 20 answers. For example, we have built a product. Okay, we built a product which can be, let's say, we were a law firm, built a product. The product can go to a company called, let's say, we have a client called 6 Sense. They have 2,000 employees. Any of these employees can enter the idea and get a score on the idea, whether the idea is good or bad, for patent filing. So basically AI does a patent search and gives you a score. Now, I've given this product to my client, and nobody is using it in the organization. Now, I asked AI, how do I make sure that the people use the AI in the company? So I'm not thinking. I asked the AI, how do I increase the product adoptability? And it gave me 5 answers. And one of them was very, very beautiful. It said, why don't you do an idea hackathon competition in 6 Sense, which has 2,000 employees, and 2,000 employees, there's 200 people will give their ideas and get a score on the idea. The AI is telling me to do an idea hackathon competition. I am not thinking to do an idea hackathon competition to improve the adoptability of my product. So is AI hampering my thinking? Is AI hampering our thinking skills?
So I think in your example, actually, AI is doing a really wonderful job of gathering information and presenting it to you, relevant information, which is something that people have been doing for a long time, searching in various ways, and now the search is easier. That doesn't mean that that your knowledge is not important, because they gave you 5 ideas and you evaluated those 5 and chose one of them. And why did you choose that one? Because you know that in this company, this will go over well because of XYZ. That is your human intervention. So you're still thinking, you're just not using your time to gather information about what other similar companies have done. So in answer to your question, no, I think actually you're practicing higher level thinking without doing some of the more lower level thinking of just searching and finding information.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say people who weren't thinking much to begin with are going to continue to maybe not think with the introduction of AI. There's people who have took a very lackadaisical approach to life and have not really there's highly analytical people, and there's people who move through life differently. That's what makes, a diverse world so wonderful. But people who have always been critical and analytical and want to assess things thoroughly are going to continue to do so with the use of AI. People who that was never really their approach to problem solving are also going to continue to do so through the use of AI.
If you've ever tried to use AI to answer a question or solve a problem you're really good at, it'll spit out an answer, and right away you'll immediately start being able to poke holes in it. Now, think about every time you've tried to answer something you're not good at. Someone that is could poke the holes in it, and just because you're not aware of the holes doesn't mean they don't exist. So I think Elise is right. There probably are some people that do overly rely on AI to solve their problems and answer their questions. But people that know they're wrong.
So
I think
at
we see
least
that
in
in
the
education, right? We see that in education already with kids that don't want to write their own essays, and they just try to enter things into AI to do their homework, and they don't know what they don't know, right? They don't have that synthesis component yet, where they have to parse through the bad feedback that AI is outputting to them, or the bad ideas, and they'll turn it in as is. It's like using a translator that's automatically generated instead of thinking about what the words actually mean and what's the context.
Mhm. Since we're talking about thinking, I want to ask, let's say, Elise, I'm so sorry, I'm pronouncing the name wrong. Elise, do you carve out thinking time?
I wish I could carve out non-thinking time, quite honestly. I get to 5, 6 p.m. and I'm mentally spent. I've got really nothing left to give. So, if the question is, I think most people here at the level that everyone on this call is at, so much of their day is spent acting strategically rather than tactically based on where we've all gotten at our careers. And so I have to be very intentional about blocking out time to do more independent thinking, where I'm not contributing to the problem solving of something that's been brought to me, or my own tasks and just managing the day-to-day flow of my work and professional life. So I'm sure therapeutically, to circle back to that part of the conversation, many therapists would recommend maybe carving out some thinking time, meditative time, even both professionally and personally. But I would say the nature of my role is largely thinking and strategizing and less doing at this point. So it's carved out for me, I guess, is what I would say.
Okay. One last question for all the speakers. One quick answer I would need from all of you. Starting from Elise. Elise, do you believe that AI bots will raise our kids?
Will raise our kids? No.
Like AI nannies and AI robots will raise our kids in the future, or our kids'
No, I don't think so. I think the Jetsons was a very entertaining show, but again, they're not caregivers. Are we talking physical robots that are manifesting and being able, because a child has physical needs. So, we'd have to get to that point where they're manifesting as physical beings that can provide care. But like we've said, they're fallible, just like humans. They can't empathize. They can't analyze. Their contextual abilities are limited at best. And even if all of those things advance, it's like, say, I wouldn't put my child personally in the hands of someone who can't empathize with them on a human level. As a human, I want to look at another human and understand what their needs might be.
Perfect. Shelley, do you believe that if let's say now the robots built on AI can peel a banana, can fold your clothes, can do your laundry, by next year they can do a lot more stuff. Would you have an AI robot in your house to do your chores because you don't like them?
Oh, I would. I personally would. Yeah, I would see so much value in that, peeling my banana.
Okay.
Will it feed you the banana, Shelley, or do you?
Oh
do you
yeah,
take control over that part?
headset, yeah, straw.
While she's doing her work, or somebody is giving a straw in her mouth. Yeah.
Keep me alive.
Nice. Sam, what do you want? What do you want the AI robot to do for you?
My chores, Shelly said earlier, I really could do without those.
And are you comfortable? Are you comfortable? A couple of robots. Are you comfortable? A couple of robots moving in your house around with your kids and with family? Are you comfortable with that notion?
I mean, it's got to be vetted and tested. I need to make sure that
Yes.
all those safeguards are in place. But yeah, once they're in, I'm an adopter.
So are you saying that if your neighbors have one, you will have one?
I'll need to evaluate it at the time, but yeah, once safeguards are in place, I'm good. I'm an adopter.
Yes. Okay. Wonderful. Hannah, what about you?
I'm with Sam on this one. I think I wouldn't be an early adopter, but I would be that person that reads their privacy and security standards and does an obscene amount of research just because it's interesting, and also because it's another being in your home. But I have a robot vacuum, and and so I don't think it's that much more scary once the controls are in place. Like, my robot vacuum doesn't go places I don't tell it to, once, and I'm certain that it won't. It might not go the places I tell it to, but it doesn't go the places I don't tell it to. And so I think once I have that comfort and the familiarity and the way it's working and the knowledge of how it's working, it's gonna and once more people have tested it, then I would absolutely be an adopter.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. I think early adopter is being an early adopter is a risk, and of course we all want to averse those risks. Thank you so much for the beautiful conversation, Shelly, Elise, Sam, and Hannah. Really had great time with all of you. Really appreciate your time as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Amit.